African Entrepreneurs Podcast.
Hello, everyone. It's happy to be here. We're getting this going. This is the African Entrepreneurs Berkeley Podcast, the very first episode, and we have none other than Mr. Rama Afullo gracing us at this moment.
Yeah, well.
So, before we go ahead, my name is Ayobami Bamigboye, an engineering student here at Berkeley, a graduate student, and alongside me I have
Testimony Elendu. I'm an MBA student at Berkeley.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for having me, folks.
Yeah. Also, we are excited to have to be speaking with you, Mr. Rama. And if you don't know, Mr. Rama is currently leading SATLYT, which is like a next gen space data center startup. And we are just going to explore the number of things he's done, like what his experiences has been thus far, and how he's got to be where he is today. And trust me, he's like the icon of the space community over here. So we are pretty much excited to speak with you. So let's get started.
Sure.
Tell us about yourself.
Yeah?
Yeah. Not like an interview, but like, trust me, it is it.
Yeah. You want to know a little bit more about me?
Yes.
Right. What are your weaknesses? Yeah. So as it says, firstly, thank you both for having me. My name is Rama Afullo. I'm Kenyan. I've lived in the US for the last 5 years, and this is the sixth country that I've lived in. My background is in mechanical engineering, space systems engineering, and business development. I was the third employee of Tesla in Africa, built their telecommunications vertical from the ground up, sold the first ever deals in the telco space, and this was within their energy products division. After 3 years of that, I joined Google, where I initially was in advertising sales. Did that fairly well, and moved on to cloud engineering and cloud computing. So initially with advertising sales, I was in Dublin, and I moved over to the US and was a cloud architect. So for like Snowflake, Twitter, GitLab, and other such companies on behalf of Google Cloud. I eventually shifted over to the startups and artificial intelligence team as a global program manager. Worked on that for a while. Worked on some significant deals, including Google's landmark deal with Y Combinator for GPUs and cloud credits. So I led that deal.
Okay.
And also as director of YC's CEO. And then left Google while I was doing a master's in space systems engineering at Johns Hopkins part-time. And I've been pushing for Google to verticalize their the space industry within Google Cloud. Didn't get too far there, but I was also pushing for orbital data centers at the time. Didn't get too far there either, because at the time, if it wasn't AI/ML, it was not going to go anywhere. So I then opted to join SpaceX as a program manager for Starlink.
Okay.
And my thesis was clear. Like if they were willing to do something that edge node program or work on edge AI or do something in orbital data centers, I would stay. If or not, then I'd leave and I could do it myself. So I scoped them for a bit, did some work with SpaceX, and then opted to leave 3 months in and start Bomb Startup. And that's where I find myself today. So 20 months ago, I started SATLYT. And what we do is we turn satellites in space into virtual AI data centers. And why people would want this is because we can help satellite operators monetize the excess compute capacity of the satellites in orbit. We can actually drill down the cost of the single biggest cost center of a satellite in orbit right now, which is the cost of sending the data down. So down hacking the data, and can reduce that by 85% or so.
Oh, pretty good.
By pre-processing data in space, by monetizing the excess compute and other managed services. So that's us. We're a team of 7 people. Majority of the people in the team are of African descent. My CTO is Kenyan like myself, and we're a US-based at OSC Corp.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. This is pretty fun fact. I mean, it looks like you've worked across multiple industries and been able to bring all of this, but computing, cloud computing, space engineering, everything into a single niche that is right now at the forefront of like some of the, the forefront of technology today is pretty impressive. specifically about like SATLYT. I'm just curious as to SATLYT. How has your growth, like how it does seem like Tesla couldn't give, I mean, SpaceX couldn't give you the exact like opportunity to do what you wanted to do, and then decided to do like satellite yourself. Yeah. How has the journey been so far? And I mean, how did you like, of course you built some sort of networking and connections, but like what were the certain things that helped you start and helped you with confidence and like the resources to get started and all the way to where you are today?
I mean, it's always tough, right? I think majority of the people who leap into entrepreneurship have some sort of backing. If would it be you've got family who can provide them somewhere to sleep, even if they don't have to pay rent, or they might have some sort of other, like what we might call an advantage of some sort. But even in that case, it's generally always risky, right? To start a startup and to do something outside of the sphere of sort of the influence of outside the sphere of the influence of what you already know, which is being employed, working for like a conglomerate of some sort, or working for a big tech company. And I could have stayed comfortable at Google, right? Get paid well. I got promoted. Every single year of my 5 years at Google, I either got promoted or started a new job, right? I could have continued that trajectory. But where's the adventure in that? Where's the fun in that? Right? So for me, I think, firstly, like during my time at Google, I got to network with a lot of investors. So that certainly helped. Like our lead investor, I knew them. Lead investor for our pre-seed round, I knew them while I was at Google. Yeah. But even before that, they actually had wanted to invest in me before they even found out that I was working at Google at the time. So there's been a long-standing relationship there. Even the work we do with NASA, that actually started because I got to know folks at NASA. I became very annoying, asking them lots of questions. They invited me to be a distinguished lecturer at in Ohio at the NASA Plan Research Center. And then from there, when it came time to applying for grad school at NASA, I knew exactly like what types of things they were looking for, how they wanted things positioned. And so that was always super helpful for us as well, right? So I think that initial networking was always helpful. I got to know a lot of folks through different networks and hiring and whatnot. But with or without the help, with or without investment, I was always going to do this thing, right? The investment helped to make sure that we don't crash and burn too quickly. So that was always good. But I think if you have enough conviction, to go out there and try something, usually you'll find that enough people, like most people will say no, most people will tell you that doesn't make sense, and maybe they're correct, right? But enough people like see the vision and also are addicted to the momentum, to the adrenaline pump that comes from like being involved with something that might be very unique, that they want to jump on board, that they want to at least hear you out. And even if they're not the ones who are going to invest, or they're not the ones who are going to join your company, they might know someone who would, right? And that's what is helpful, right? And usually, like, for example, going out to networking events, I tend to not enjoy it. But most of the time, I at least meet one or two people who I think are worthwhile us having conversations where then become something.
Yeah. Okay, let me just come in there very quickly. I know you're African, but you've worked in top companies across the globe. Yes. One of the trends we see is that a lot of Africans come to these top companies. They work, they have very comfortable lives, and they don't have this incentive. They're not incentivized to go start something. How did you like defeat that fear? Coming like without security of some sort, like some of those people in this, in other like developed countries do. They leave this like golden handcuffs, go start something. How did you defeat that fear? Because it seems like a lot of Africans who have this great experience and they're not doing enough of this.
I feel like if you're an immigrant anyway, when you're an immigrant, you actually, first of all, you have, sure, you've got a lot of disadvantages, but you've got a long list of advantages, right? And some of those advantages include the fact that you have seen things that most people who are local to any area haven't seen, right? Just inherently, right? You've seen things from a very different perspective. You've lived somewhere else. Most people in like a lot of people here as well, like haven't traveled outside of America, because America is a massive place. Every state is like its own country, right? Just in the way it's constituted, and even the way folks act and participate just participate and be in the community. So I think that's always actually an advantage that people take for granted too often. When that didn't, I wasn't fearful of like, oh well, I mean, let me stick to what I know already. I've known for a long time that I want to build my own business. I've known for a long time that I'll be in the space industry, and most of my steps have been somewhat calculated, moving me in that trajectory. Right, and most of the roles, like if you look at from my first role till now, almost all of them in some way contribute to the mission of the company right now. So, it's the most patience I've ever had to actually like demonstrate, because I'm not a naturally patient, right? I definitely get angsty, and I just want to get things done like straight away. But yeah, I would be lying if I said, oh man, I was fearful and I overcame this big fear, right? I think at the end of the day, you get instilled like false bravado and false confidence at some point when you've like worked at a lot of the big tech companies and you've seen things and you've built things there, and you've seen those things actually take shape. Like sure, you're within the umbrella of you're at the mercy of what people's perceptions are of the company, and you haven't had to build out that brand. So that's a big advantage, because majority of the reason why people buy these things because the brand already exists, right? But that aside, you still had to do a lot of legwork, right, in order to do things differently, even in those companies. So if you're supposedly working with some of the smartest people, and you find yourself still head and shoulders above them in terms of your ability to execute, why would you fear going out there and building something of your own? And now, like we see that the zeitgeist of the space industry, in fact, the tech industry, is moving towards orbital data centers. SpaceX is now doing it. Google is now doing it, right? And yet, I've been preaching about this for 4 years, right? So it's interesting when you look at where it's shifting, and how folks act, that even these big tech companies very often get things wrong. They very often kill off products before they've even started, because it's not their current main thing, right? We don't always have that foresight. And so, of course, some of them, like the Elons of the world, will take the opportunity to do some financial engineering to get themselves out of trouble, right, when the time comes, right? But there are other people who actually see this as something that's necessary in the space industry. Yeah. So this is honestly a question.
Yeah.
No, I never had like, oh man, this is a big fear. Not really.
Yeah. Just diving deeper on your last statement, many of these big companies you mentioned in your analysis right now, that you're in SpaceX, you were pushing something, you saw that they were not doing that, then you stepped out to build your thing. Yeah. And one of the trends we've seen for some of these big companies is they have priorities. But when these great talents go out and start building stuff and it starts gaining momentum, they jump in because they have a lot of balance sheets and is that fear not existential for you, given that what you are doing could potentially be the big thing like in the next couple coming years? And if that's the case, what's your plan? Is it exit to like selling to these big companies, or what's your strategy?
I'm not really planning on an exit anytime soon. If anything, I take imitation is the biggest form of flattery, right? I take it as a compliment, and it's also it's a signal to the market that actually what you've been working on, what you've been preaching about, is actually useful, right? Because oftentimes you have to do. I would have had to do a lot more education work, like educating the masses, evangelizing why orbital data centers might be useful. Now I don't have to do that. The other thing is, we're doing this with a low capex solution. I don't have to go out there and build massive fleets of satellite systems. I don't have to rely on the fact that we have to wait for SpaceX's Starship to get into orbit, which could be who knows when, right? They haven't taken a real payload into orbit with Starship. So I don't have to rely on any of those mechanisms in order for us to be successful. So whether or not they're successful, we still can be, right? So it's irrelevant to me, right? If they are successful, it's actually it's still useful for us, because then we actually get more nodes to interconnect with, right? In orbit. So I'm not particularly worried. And if anything, like every Superman needs his Lex Luthor. Now we're dealing with Ex Luthor. All right.
Cool. I mean, one thing I've learned from what you said so far is mostly around the intent. I mean, being thinking about like the end from the beginning, right? Like, I mean, there are likely multiple, I mean, final year students all over Africa thinking about like going on global stage, pushing the ideas. I mean, and really pushing as far as they could take it. But being able to sort of craft a plan and not just like wing it, as some would say, but like being able to figure out, okay, what are the experiences I do need to get? Like, what are the network I do need to build? What areas should I build expertise in? Who should I meet? Like, how can I combine all of this? At what stage can I combine all of this? And of course, like bringing in the patience, the being very methodical about this. That's one thing I've learned. So having said that, there are certain areas that's, especially in like the developed countries, is traditionally difficult for like an immigrant or to sort of work in. I mean, in spaces and in instance, right? Like there are ITAR restrictions. They're like, it's very closely related to defense. You do need the law, security clearance, and a couple other industries like that. Given that you're working there, like that could potentially deter a number of Africans who are looking to like work in that space. What would you think? I mean, given your experience, what would you think is the right approach? For this is, do you just wait it out? I mean, get better clearance, or there's something to do in between?
I mean, I probably disagree with the idea that you need security clearance to work in the space, You do not. You do not need to even be trying to work in the defense industry or be militarized to work in the space industry. There's definitely ITAR arms regulations to a point, and the EAR as well, right? But there are things that you can do outside of that. In fact, what we're trying to do is to actually create a real in-space economy, right? Because so far, majority of the funding in the space industry is coming from defense, coming from government, etc. Right? Our biggest customers. So not, I'm not saying that we've managed to crack everything yet, but the best thing that can happen in the near future is to have a real in-space economy where satellite operators are buying and selling to other satellite operators, right? And also down to general consumer and to enterprises, rather than always focusing on like the biggest buyer, just right the ESG, SATLYT, right? So there's a few things that Africans can think about as well. You don't have to do anything from America. Like it's definitely easier, right? I think there's more aptitude, more appetite for the risky bets. Yeah, significantly so, which makes sense. When you have the most money in the world, you can take many more bets. And also, I think the general like net, the general American attitude is pretty gung ho on like, hey, let's just take the risk to see what happens, which is, I think, a pretty great attitude for venture and for starting something, right? Whereas, like, I mean, as you're still trying to figure out how things will develop in your own countries, it'll be more difficult. That said, there's a few things to consider. Last year in April, I was present at this in Egypt and Cairo. There was the inauguration of the African Space Agency. That now exists. After that inauguration, there was an announcement of €100 million endowment between the European Union and the African Space Agency. There's also European Space Agency $100 million endowment, like where they so put up like proposal requests, etc., for African and European startups to collaborate, and you can receive those funds through those mechanisms. So there are some opportunities, and there's growth happening right now. At least about just under half of the African states have deployed their own satellites into orbit. There's about 61 satellites currently in orbit that are African government owned. So there's growth happening, and there'll be more of a need for more growth within the space industry in Africa. So most of the time, the best place to really win at something is not to go to a crowded space, right? It's to actually go to a space where people are still trying to figure things out, And once again, it's the same immigrant mentality, especially if you've had the opportunity to go out to other countries and see how people are doing it in Europe or probably doing it in America, then come back and revitalize folks who might have the experience, who might have the know-how, but just haven't put it all together. All right. And you can lead them to greener pastures in that way. So I think there's definitely opportunities. We just have to figure out exactly what makes the most sense for Africa. And we don't always have to just sell into Africa. In Africa, sell outside. And that's where some people have also found some wins.
Yeah, I want to segue into fundraising, because one of the biggest bottlenecks for many African founders is access to capital. And how did you raise capital? Direct question. And secondly, what advice are you going to give to Africans, either immigrants, Africans, or Africans in Africa, on how they can be able to navigate fundraising for their ventures?
I like the Nigerians. You guys don't play with money. Your man is direct. How did you get the money? They will say, "Will be your secret sauce." Just like, so tell me, so I could replicate. All right, then what is right? Take me there. All right. So there's a few things, right? Like I mentioned, I built some relationships with some venture capital funds, and the folks at Antler really liked what we were doing. They really liked me. I got to know them. I got to know Jeff Becker, who's the principal in the New York, in Antler, New York. And when it came time to fundraise, I first went to other channels just to get it was good practice for when I go to the folks who probably will give me funding, and they gave us, they helped me raise off the round directly, without even, without too many questions being asked. As a guy with a pitch deck, and they're like, good enough, right? Here's half a bar, right? Which is impressive on their part as well. I mean, risky also. Don't talk on that, right? And then the rest of it, I was able to raise the remain another 30% from Slauson & Co. They've got a program to go through. I'm very much outside of their scope, other than being sort of African descent. They tend to go for consumer-based applications, etc. Then there's this dude doing space-based, verticalization, and how do we really help this guy? But where they're going, kind of let's fund it. So you just take a risk sometimes. And then I went through a few different angel networks. The Nairobi Business Angel Network is a syndicate. They invested. Exler Ventures, who focus on ex-SpaceX, ex-Tesla investments. They invested, and then there was some other angels. So if you'll notice from that first round, the $1 million of that first round, in almost every one of those investors, there was some commonality. What we want sometimes is to go out there and just raise from people who we don't know and get a blank check, which I also try. But what you find is that most of the time, if you've already built rapport with people, if there's already a level of commonality, the chances and the likelihood of them actually funding you is much better. Nairobi Business Angel Network from Kenya, right? Extra Ventures, looking at ex-SpaceX and ex-Tesla, especially ex-Tesla employees. I was the first to be invested, right? I mean, they're Silicon Valley based, right, of ex-Tesla employees. I was there's that commonality in women before. Right, even Atla, I knew the investors, and they'd been tracking me for 2 years. All right, so that was already in the back of their minds. They whatever it is I'm going to do, as long as it's reasonable, not too insane. Right, but probably pissed. Right, and this last one, of course, I had to go through a 6-month process with them, and got to know, fell in love with the product, whatever. I said it took some time. So that was the commonality there. Now, that's for the venture capital funding of that round. We're currently raising our seed round as well. So we've already got a few folks on board who already deployed capital into a seed round. We've got 6 different investors who are involved. Probably make some announcements in a few months. But now on the non-dilutive side, right? So which is government grants, etc. As I said, with NASA, I got to know folks. I got to know the right people who were within the field that they were trying to deploy, and got to see them. I went to see them in person, paid out of pocket, right? Before I'd even got on the first bit of investment, and got to see them, got to read to them, got to talk to them, and present to them. And at the time, I thought, it was not going to go anywhere. after that, the government grants come out and we put together a proposal, apply it, we got it, right? It's a really good proposal. But my feeling is, even if it was half as good as it was, probably would have still run out the grant because they've already done all the leg. Most people just hit them home. It's like trying to get a job when you just shooting a spraying, right? Like maybe you'll get a spray and pray. Maybe you'll get a few interviews, maybe. But if you take the time to like find the right person, DM them, say, can you route it through it? Get someone to internally say something about you, introduce you, refer you. That makes a big difference, right? So now your profile goes up, and you still don't get it, but now you had a better chance, right? I think some machine routing you out. So for the non-dilutive capital, we lost your video feed. So for the non-dilutive side, so with NASA, that's how like that sort of initially started to come together. With the San Jose government, I saw somewhere that they were looking to give 3 or 4, I think 4 startups a grant on the first grant of its kind to get AI startups to build from San Jose. I said, I live in San Diego, close enough to San Jose. Let's apply. We applied, and actually, funny enough, we initially were in the top 8 initially, and I said, well, we don't know if we'll place you for top 4, right? There's this other startup that they're coming in San Jose, but really like you guys are close enough. Like maybe if you move to San Jose after you get this grant. And then lo and behold, that startup was like, no, we're going to be based in San Francisco. So some startup founders, they need some training. Why would you give out free money just for have like a station in San Jose out of another station somewhere else? But anyways, got to meet the mayor of San Jose. They gave us a grant, gave us a check. It was cool, right? So things like that would happen. And then also with some grants, like the NASA STTR grant, there was an add-on that you would do with the National Science Foundation, so NSFI, if you want to, right? And of course we said, yeah, why the hell not? Because then you actually get more grant money out of it, and you get to have free training, go through an accelerator, right? That's pretty well known. And part of the accelerator is to talk to 100 of your own customers. Why would you say no to that, right? But we're the only space company that actually applied for that, which doesn't make any sense, all right? So most people actually just don't take the opportunities. Like, sure, there's also like a level of privilege that I'm talking from, in that like I have the agency to go out there and like just like look for opportunities and do them, and people are just trying to make sure they have their next meal, all right? As people are homeless, like, oh, take your next opportunity, turn that to a homeless person. Doesn't make sense. But within your sphere of influence, there's a lot more that you can do than what most people do. And even for myself, I don't always feel like I push myself to my max on a daily basis. Right? There's always something more I could be. Right now, I had to lose weight. I'm getting married this year. I'm like, there's a clock here. So I think there's ways to raise capital. We've gotten a few more grants than that actually. One from I just got a grant today. Actually hit my bank account from Saudi, right? And a few other places as well. But yeah, I'd say that's what the fundraising journey has been like.
So I think this is really very interesting because fundraising is one of a very, very big topic here. But just to give some advice I know you mentioned some of these leverage relationships and advice to view that relationship. But one of these about a lot of Africans is how networking, being where we're coming from, it's not something we are very heavy on. How does an African immigrant improve their networking? Say somebody's just coming with JF Kennedy or any country at all, that matter. How do they improve network? How do they put their networking straight?
Okay. Well, I think you should be comfortable with rejection, first of all. I think one thing I didn't mention in the previous question was that for like you as a founder, you just get rejected. This is no. You get like literally 100+ no's every yes. All right. So these are someone that raise capital. They have been rejected by everyone under the sun. You just only see, you think, oh, this investor is definitely going to invest. They say, oh, we looked at the business model and we found, and then the next thing they invest in potatoes or something, right? Like that happens all the time. So I think you need to be okay with that. And I mean, networking, when you're networking and you say, I'm here to network, you tend to be like stiff, right? Like you're like, oh, maybe this is not the right person you talk to. But the network is mainly just being the right position, the right time, and taking your chances. If someone you want to talk to, so go to them and talk to them. What do you have to lose? Hey, look, I'm building ABC. Get your 10, 20, 30-second pitch down. Right? Hey, look, this is what we do. Tagline. Love to tell you more. Like, thought you speak. Thought it was quite interesting. Like, what do you think? Look, oh, okay, cool. You just have something you need to say to them and see where it goes. Sometimes you click on people, sometimes you don't. You don't click, keep it moving. Like if it's someone of interest, you still want to get the details. Like just ask for it, but like know your timing. Sometimes you just be annoying some. All right, but I don't see why not. Like, for example, you dropped an email. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Yeah, 2 days ago. Said, oh hey, like I don't know you, but we're thinking about doing a podcast. I was like, well, I'll be in Berkeley on Thursday, so let's do it. Here we are. All right, like you wouldn't have known if someone's going to say yes or no. And then, like you said, you guys didn't expect to be doing this today, right? Yeah, but at the same time, it's like I'm in the area. Why should we do a video call when I'm here in person, right? It can be like a lot more personable this way. Maybe the tech won't always work, right? But it can work a little bit better this way. So you just never know. It just turned out that my whole day was full of Berkeley. So I might as well just, do another Berkeley thing today. All right. So I think, you just got to take your chances. Most people don't even take that first step. They want to put themselves up there, or scared, or they think someone's going to steal their idea, which happens. You see, steal people's ideas right now in real time. It happens, all right? But I mean, it's also an African. All right. so there's also that. As much as he wants to deny and go out there and be racist and whatever the hell, right? It's that clown. But I think that if you take your chances, why the hell not?
And a related question, how do you approach, when he was thinking about starting SATLYT, how do you approach that finding the right co-founders? I don't have finding the right initial funding scheme. I mean, you employed a couple persons who have to get thing started. You could also explain to wonder, like, if the same logic, we have like some insights with regards to, okay, how do you find the right persons to get?
Yes. I mean, first thing I'll say, maybe there's a few mentions that people should think about. I would recommend that people read a book called The Founder's Dilemmas. Would strongly recommend it. Have you guys read it before?
Yes, I have.
You've read it?
It's been a long time.
Yeah. But I mean, like the key idea is like this idea of what is the lever that moves you, right? At first, they do like compare and ask what makes stars fail. But we can find that anything. But really, what I liked was like, are you after wealth, right? Or are you after control, right? And it's not like an either or, like people know it's a spectrum, right? But for the most part, I know I'm after control, right? I want to control my own destiny, right? Like that's what I was really looking for. That's why I said it wasn't a difficult decision for me. I wasn't moving out scared. In fact, my fear would be that I get stuck working for a while, which is okay for some people. But I think I want to always have said things I wanted to do better. All right. So that's the first thing. And then like in terms of starting the startup, I say for the most part, if you're like, oh, maybe I should start a startup, don't do it. Right? 95% of startups fail. You're in for pain, misery, regrets. All right. If you've got a real conviction, like, hey, I really want to start something, I want to do this with ABC, or I have to start something because if I don't, like, there's like a real compelling reason, then you should do it. Or I just can't get rid of this idea. This thing is in the back of my mind. I really need to do something. You should do it. Mm-hmm. Founding teams are tough, all right? Because you always think someone's like a really good fit on paper, but the fit on paper matters less than whether or not you gel all together and you pump each other, right? Because people, when there's money involved, people change. You will be very surprised at how people change. It's quite sad, actually, right? How folks will position themselves, or they try to find ways to like one up each other when actually you could just like do actually a better job together. But that's how people are. Folks who you didn't think had egos have massive egos back and are trying to like be the person that undermine you. That happens, right? So I think that can be quite a tough experience for a lot of people. I think when people try to start like with co-founding teams, like 4 people, I think it's a terrible idea. They'll almost never last. Like it's I would go as far as say that I could probably bet that in any case that a startup with 4 people, there's no chance that in 5 years all 4 people are still co-founders and at the top like everything. There's no way, right? Even 2 people is tough, right? That doesn't last long. There's normally some issue. 4, crazy, right? So for me, like I had to go through a few learnings. I think she has to set up his ecosystem myself. In terms of hiring a team, like a really stellar cast, but 7 people in the team. My CTO, I wish I'd met him like right with me on my journey. He's excellent. All right. I think just the right, like he has all the tradition on paper, but what's even more important is that he is super complementary to my skill set. Like I'm an engineer, but I'm not an engineer, right? Like that's a different skill set, right? Like, those are guys with different previous. Maybe you guys are engineers, right? I'm not quite that, right? Like I know, like I definitely put on the side of like business development and sales, and I bring the engineering to that, all right? Where this balls to just want to be behind the scenes and working on engineering, and that's what makes them happen, right? So you find that sort of thing. I think that it's very rare that the first or the second, the third person, the people you hire, like always best. I think it was a small. Yeah, I'd say a third of the people that you hire actually tend to be the right, at least. And I've hired hundreds of people at like, or I guess interviewed like loads of people at Google especially. Interviewed a lot of people now. I interviewed like say 100+ people for SATLYT already, right? But like I've hired people and I've fired people, right? I think you eventually just like you don't quite feel it as much, and if you believe or would do have to let them go, which is also maybe not such a good trait, but you pick it up eventually, whereas you know that there's about efficiency for the business. And if someone is breaking team morale down, if someone is pretty just in it for themselves, which, I mean, I don't blame people who are in it for themselves. But at the same time, that probably don't want you to do that here, right? But we'll do it elsewhere. Then, it's CELABI. You keep it moving, you do something else, tidy, and you move on. So, I've learned that about building teams. But actually, the first person I ever hired, she's still part of my company. In fact, I hired her 6 months before I incorporated. So she's been at Stump for 2 years. She's excellent. All right. And that thing is like, that's rewarding, right? Oh man, that's people just really, really good, right? And you bring them in, drive. And then sometimes you just buy someone and you hire them and you don't know what it is they'll do. And it turns out that you just rob, you shouldn't have happy just because of environment. Like that's a terrible idea. Right? Now you're trying to fit them into your plans. Like you can see that they feel they're not really being integrated. Plans really, they're trying their hardest. They don't have the right skill set. They have them on paper, but like when things step up into that more hardcore engineering, maybe that's like not their forte or whatever it is. So we've had that as well. And you grow just comfortable with whichever there's like it's going. But as long as you're building the team that is targeted around your North Star, right? Cheers.
Don't wrap up this episode at, talk about fire.
They're trying to get rid of me.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, this is ironic. I would not say, Rama, get the hell out of here. Get here. Manager.
This was basically like a conversation. We are like talking about some of the things that they are depots in humans reports and your perspective. Issue they are realistic and I need this 25 if not just for us, but
Yeah.
so firearm first just see the first thing that comes to my mind.
Oh, that's a terrible idea.
this could go hard, you know, like, no, go hard. When Tank was always pretty when I asked, like, I don't think, but is he, which big tech leader is he going to install? Like, okay, we're checking our the best. Not scared of any question.
Childhood questions. That okay. So things that are more African dated. Here is me.
Birds? Yeah. And this is Gary. So good. That's the one right there.
He's gymnasium. This is once we
We go any day, but I don't talk about it, so that's not the one. Okay, hold on. Yeah, it's the time I went. Oh, it's on the time. It's just the area. I thought that was gonna get brought. I don't know. Like maybe it's a proof since that was 4 years ago. Okay, well, I shouldn't besmirch her name. Maybe it's good.
Maybe don't okay. Nigerian jollof or Ghana jollof.
Oh,
You have jollof or Ghana jollof.
do you have jollof? No, but I know that I know Nigerian. I've been to that. I've been to Nigeria. I've been to a Nigerian Ghanaian wedding. Ghana. So I have an opinion.
all right. Let's see. The first take lead, man.
You ask it right there. Like two of my friends from Goodwill, they got married. And the lady, she's Ghanaian, the guy is Nigerian, was Ghana. That was good, man.
That was crazy.
Because you sit soon and you keep you guys. I told you, I'll find some cameras. Where is our shakti? The thing is that I think you have a Ghanaian right, and you can have this Sunday. We are gonna be towards fifth enough. Okay, yes, you can still get it. He's just gonna put the kids anyway. Yeah. I don't know what to expect.
Then the did a jollof for act with blind chest. People from other place. And we want more of this.
This what the people are for? The Africans,
Americans. Okay. Then like it was a neutral audience and it was blind chest.
so it's never the kid. The guys who wrote cases if sound cool. See, the shell local can be because the jollof I ate was at a wedding. You know, yeah, like in it. So I don't know. It's actually Nigerian jollof, but in the stop. I know they stop, but they see, but they were doing it. Yeah, they are doing it. What did I do? See the light? Yeah, they were artists. See the light? That's tough. I've lived in a lot of places. That's tough. I've lived in a lot of places. Me, you just. It's fun. Yeah, like Victoria Island. The thing is fun, but Victoria Island, very Kanogi, man. It's just whole Nairobi or Nairobi, Cape Town. Because I spent a third of my life at Cape Town. I went to the University of Cape Town, actually. Always. I went to the University of Cape Town.
No, I agree with you on this. I was Cape Town for a couple of weeks time.
Yes.
What is this? Like the places
I think Nairobi has the best energy, right? From what in terms of what I like, right? Nairobi has the best energy, but Cape Town, like scenery, or that's really beautiful. I haven't explored West Africa enough. Just Ghana and Nigeria, right? Egypt was fun, but I've never seen driving like that in my life. Like you don't like it. Okay, next one. All right.
So if you had to recommend like the next person you meet, I would love cost interview like that inside. So the entrepreneurship, you have community entrepreneurship. Oh, now there's a
There's a guy from SATLYT who just won Tech Crash Disrupt end of last year. Yeah. I'll get you guys. I'll question these people. There's he's Tayo. I think Tayo Alexania from Lola Space Global Vision Systems. He's built an AI chip company. All right. And there's Femi from Chemical Systems. Okay. They're in the space industry, Nigerian guy, the space industry.
based between here and Japan. Based between here and Japan.
I've spoken to Lita before.
Who?
Lita. Tara.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, I was just thinking. I know of it. They're in the Bronx in Nigeria, right? Yeah, the guy who does the shapes, all right? The shades and the Hawaiian shirt. He's got his looks down. Yeah. That's more of a defense, right? Like it tends to not fall too much in defense. We gotta reach out to Bossy. Have you guys spoken to? Gotta reach out to Bossy.
Let's start trying to at a point in time.
I'm sure.
It's like what's boundaries matter.
So I'm sure I can reach out to him.
I bet. You know what I say?
I'll reach out to him at some point. I'll let you. What else?
What only through the question is, what are the books? I mean, of course, you put up. I might see my life. Yeah, but curious about like, what are books that are sort of deemed the most influential to you, Johnny? Does like sort of still that use some of the core tenets that you still put back?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I think I mentioned Farmers Dilemmas.
Yeah.
I think that no longer it is, but Trevor, I really like this. Right, like partly also because like at the time I saw us in Botswana and I used to read a lot. I used to read like almost a book a day, right? And playing video games, playing outside, reading books. That was the majority of my childhood, especially during the holidays, right? And my dad just told us, and you need like he's like you're reading all of these books now in Africa, right? You push and watch a bay. It's like what? How old is all this like no longer ideas, especially. That's one of the cultural there's the other one also with part of the same series. Anyways, things fall apart. Things fall apart. Yeah, things fall apart as well. Let's see. Now these are the biggest two books I like instead of the I would say, this had the most good, but it's my actor's best. I don't know. I enjoyed the Harry Potter just mainly because I was hating on Harry the entire time. All right. I just think he's actually the antagonist of the entire story. He's just like the bringer of death. Like everyone who dies, this is his fault. Like his parents, he was almost down to him. Like Sirius Black dead because of him. He wouldn't listen. Hermione was telling him to listen. He did listen. All right. Like almost everyone. It's gonna be dead. I get down, trees down to him. All right. He's so annoying. Anyways, so I enjoyed that. I think they were words. I know J.K. Rowling's not exactly what it's popular person right now, right? But I really enjoyed those. I mean, there's plenty. I used to read a lot. These days, I don't really read. My fiance actually still reads a lot. I don't find the time to read as much as I used to do. There's a book called Dr. B by Daniel Suarez. But if I say this, it might be into him. That's the fault. But I don't think it's well written. All right, but I like the story. Right, it's about that asteroid mining and like a real escapade in space. All right, I enjoyed that type of thing about. Oh, also, there's a book by Arthur C. Clarke, who wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey. There's a book called Rendezvous with Rama. There's a book, right, and it's about space. It's one of the big space books, right? And Rama was the name of a alien spaceship. And so when you try to book a meeting with me, my meeting invite is Rendezvous with Ram, right? Yeah, so I say this with the colors. Those I say this. Yeah, this is So it's a delta V, delta. So delta V is giving you a Zetic. Oh my god, delta like change. Delta change is like speed, right? Yeah, speed, right? But then storage, cool. That's storage. Cool.
Yeah. So if you were to design your whole Africa today, the next 10 years, what would you be like for entrepreneurial possible? What do you think founders should optimize it for? Because it looks like a lot of founders are just going to fintech.
That's you guys, bro. That's you guys started this. You guys, and also the click of House Kenya, the Desta, and all that. What did I design?
Yeah, how would you design it? That what do you think entrepreneurs should be building? Secondly, how do you think government should support it?
Well, I say a couple of things. I think the first thing is, if I was to design my own Africa, like just as a general sense, I'm a Pan-African, right, at heart, right? my political leaning is Pan-African Socialist Democrat, right? It's for some kind of leadership, right? I know that's crazy to hear from a capitalist, from someone participating in capitalism, but right now that's the system at play, right? To pretend it's not is just not realistic, right? Like I enjoy the idea of unifying as many African states as possible. I like what Traore and the folks in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, I like what they're doing, right? They've gotten rid of a lot of the colonial class. See, right now, folks are not too happy about that. We are the most resource-rich continent on the planet, period. And the fact that we've been brought to our knees the way we are is a travesty, and for humanity in general, it's just like the idea that we are not developed because we're not smart enough to develop. So it's one of those things that's just really frustrating, right? And what we see is in almost every other nation, the reason they exist is the reason folks are going not to Venezuela, going not to these other places, just because of natural resources, all right? So I'd love to see a unification of the states and the nationalization of our resources. We can't have De Beers owning them in also South Africa. Ridiculous. It's like colonial companies like telling us what to do with our own resources. Absolutely not. Then on the entrepreneurial side, look, it's kind of good that we've cornered like fintech and that we've like, it's like most other places, like when people corner something, like they celebrate that quite a bit and they push that thing into its max, right? It's like, and it's fine for us to own a fintech and to go after it. Like it would be nice for us to diversify as much as we can. Obviously, I'd love to see more space companies that I can collaborate with. That's good. But that also needs a lot of government support, a lot of government backing for it to become a reality. That it's like this is a real occupation can go into. It's a real job. I think the more people get into engineering, the better it is for us net. Right, so more people should become engineers. But probably the best thing I could say is if more people actually do the thing that they've actually not the thing that they feel like they have to do, not the thing, right? I think that's better for everyone, right? I think that's better. Yeah, like overall, right? Like, don't be boxed in by the general status quo, or even by whatever religion you've been told to believe. For your young religion, you think do the thing you actually want to do will build something positive for your future. Will build something positive.
Very much. That's such a we forgot. It's been really fun. So it's really recent physics was supposed to experience. Internal. Yeah, so yeah, we are but he has been stuff like that all the movie. Yeah, just not. Yeah, but we were very much largest time with you heard this event. But I guess thank you again for the figure that our best episode. It's such an honor to do with you. And then thank you all for listening. See you. Appreciate you. Thanks, folks. Thanks for inviting me and good luck.